So you guys able to see my screen? Okay. So the very first thing in our programs is cursor. Cursor is a database object to retrieve data from a result set one row at a time instead of the TLSQL commands that operate on all rows in the result set at one time. We use cursor when we need to update records in database table in singleton fashion, means row by row. Okay, so if you see, so far we worked with single line queries, means they are all together in a single line. Okay, not in multiple lines. So if you want to execute two or three statements at a time, you are not so there is there you can execute, but there is no particular name, or there is nothing. So nothing like methods in C sharp, functions, nothing like that. So we'll execute those statements or queries, we'll get the result as a whole. Okay, so as a whole, so cursor, what it will do is it will get the result. So if you execute a query, the result you can see on the result window, right? So that 4 or 5 records in a line. So what does cursor do is you can iterate through each record. Okay, just like your for each loop, so you can iterate through each object. So the same way cursor also use it to iterate through the records of result set. Okay, result sets means they are the output of any query, any select query. Okay, so there are mainly, if you see the life cycle of a cursor, we have declare cursor, open cursor, fetch cursor, close cursor, and deallocate cursor. This is the life cycle of a cursor. You have to follow this, otherwise you will get errors. Okay, a cursor has to be declared. Okay, you can give some name to the cursor, and you can define like local or global. So by default, all the cursors are local. Okay, so forward only or scroll. Define the cursor movements, means forward or backward means in that query result, if you want to traverse from start to end or end to start, or if you want to move in between the records, you can use the forward only or scroll type of the cursor. Okay, so you got this point. Forward only means if you have 10 records, you are iterating through each record, means 1 2 3 like that. And if you want to go back to third record or second record, normally in any programming language, if you want to go back in a for loop or while loop, it is not possible, right? So the same way cursors also they support that version, as well as you can come back, means you process it till fifth record and you want to go back to second record, means you can go back to that second record and you can start processing the result again from there. Okay, that is scroll. And we have 4 different types of cursors that we will discuss in next slide. Okay, those are static, key set, dynamic, and fast forward. So basic type of cursor, by default everything is fast forward. Okay, and read only, scroll locks, and optimistic. Define locks on this cursor. Okay, that is not that much important. And for select statement, so you write, so far we wrote so many select queries to return the data. So that select query you can keep after this for, means whatever output of that select query, the result will be hold in the cursor. Okay, and you can use it for update some columns in the main table, or you can delete for the same table. If you want to delete the records, you can use for delete also. Okay, so next is open. So once you declare your cursor, you have to open that cursor, means in that cursor you will have the output of a select query, the result set of a select query. The result will be in your cursor. So you have to open that cursor, then you can read record by record and you can process. So the very first statement, once you declare your cursor, you have to do is you have to open your cursor. Okay, that is syntax for open cursor is, so leave the global, okay, open cursor name, that is simple. And then you have to fetch record by record. So for that the syntax is fetch, next, prior, first, last, absolute or relative. Okay, so there are these many things. When you working with scroll, you can use the other things other than next. The remaining you can use when you are working with scroll type of cursors. Okay, so fetch next means it will start from the first record and then second record, like that. So you have to keep that result into your variable. Okay, from cursor name into your variable names. Okay, whatever variables you want to keep the result means, in the first record you may have 2 3 columns. That 2 3 columns values you can keep into a temporary variable in your cursor. Okay, in that program. From there you can process inside that again, begin and end. Okay, those are their statements. Okay, and then close means you have to, once you processed your cursor and you you are completed, you are done with your cursor, you have to close that cursor and then you have to deallocate the cursor. So by default for that cursor some memory will be allocated. Okay, and then you have to close that cursor means here you open the cursor, so a connection to the cursor is live, you have to close that connection and then you have to deallocate the memory already given for that cursor. So you have to follow each of these steps, 5 steps, otherwise your cursor won't work properly. Okay, and close and deallocate, these two are very important. If you forget to close and deallocate your cursor, if you want to use that cursor again, you can't use it. Okay, you have to deallocate that cursor and then you have to again, then only you can use that cursor again, otherwise you can't use it. Okay, any doubts on this? Okay, I hope you guys are good. Okay, so we have these cursors. Okay, types of cursors are static cursors. A static cursor populates the result set at the time of cursor creation and the query result is cached for the lifetime of cursor. Okay, so once you give the cursor, so you executed a query and you got some result. If you keep that result into a query, the result will be there throughout the life of that. So the life cycle we discussed, right? So throughout that life cycle, the result will be there. So it won't get changed, it won't get updated or deleted. No update, insert or delete operations are reflected in static cursor. Means in your student table, if you have some data and you created a cursor for select star from student, so the result of this query will be stored into a cursor. That cursor, till you deallocate, close and deallocate that cursor, the same result will be there. Meanwhile, if you are if you are updating or deleting some operations you are performing on the student table, it won't reflect the data into your static cursor. Okay, whereas dynamic cursor is quite opposite. So you can, and the static cursor is both ways, means scrolling means you can move forward and backward. Okay, that supports forward and backward. Dynamic cursors are uh, in the in meaning of memory, they won't maintain the same data. So if you do some insertions, updations or deletions, the data will reflect into your dynamic cursors. Okay, these are also scrollable types. Forward only cursor, this is a forward cursor means it is very fast when you compare to other things, but what it will do is it moves to forward only. It can't come back, or it can't scroll. Scroll means if you are executing rows one by one and you are at the fifth record and you want to get back to some second record or something, yeah, it won't be allowed in this type of cursors. Okay, by default all the cursors are forward only cursors. Okay, in forward only also we have static and fast forward. So static means it will hold all the data just like your static cursor. It will hold the data and the data changes can't be happened in this. Okay, and then fast forward is another one. What it will do is it is directly, it moves from start to end and the changes can be taken care in this. And key set driven, a key set driven means it depends on the row that qualified the key sets, whatever keys you define for that. Okay, means some primary key or unique keys, so they are driven according to those key sets. Okay, you got it? Or any doubts on these four types? So cursors basically this much in detail not required, but to give a basic knowledge about this, I have given, I am telling you all these things. Okay, but the very good practice is not to use cursors more often. So whenever you need, they are essential, that time only you have to use cursors. Otherwise it's advised not to use cursors. So the performance wise the cursors are very slow and it may degrade your application performance. So better not to use cursors until and unless they are compulsory. Okay, we will see an example of cursor on our student table. Okay, okay, here this is my cursor. So I declared two variables, one is name and class, and I declared a cursor get student and set. So any variable you have to use set, okay, to set the value of that. So set at the rate get student equal cursor for. So this cursor for, and you are giving your statement select name and class from student. Okay, so till this what it will do, the result of select name comma class from student, this entire result will be kept in get student. Okay, now this is my first step in the cursor life cycle. This is my first statement, that is declaring a cursor. Okay, so I will life cycle 1 declare a cursor. Okay, the next is open a cursor. Okay, this is life cycle event 2 and then fetch the result. Okay, this is life cycle event 3, fetch the result. Okay, so you fetch next means it will process record by record. So the very first record will be start from here, next from get student into at the rate name at the rate class. Okay, so the result from the first record, two columns are there, those two column values I am keeping into my temporary variables name and class. So we are using while loop here. This while loop, this is a system defined variable. Okay, you can call it as global variable. So at the rate fetch status means it checks whether there is a next record available in my cursor or not. Okay, if it is available it says 0, if it is not it will return 1. Okay, so until there are records available begin. So unlike in C sharp, what we do here is, okay, so the begin and end state two keywords we use to define a block of statements. In C sharp, begin means open curly brace, okay, like this, and then this is this one. So in C sharp, the closing is closing brace. Okay, but in SQL Server you have to start with begin and end. So in between these two keywords, whatever you keep, that we call it as a block of statements. So what I am doing, print name and class, and then again, so these cursors only once you mention to fetch the very first record, means the next available record you ask it to fetch. So that fetched into this result and it is over. And again you need to fetch the next record. Okay, so it is a continuous loop until the fetch status is over. The all the records are processed. The fetch status value will be 1, and it will then the loop will be exited. Okay, and then my life cycle event 4. Okay, close the cursor, and my life cycle event 5th, deallocate the cursor. Okay, so without these two statements, if you execute that query you may get output, but if you try to execute the same statements again, it will throw some error like that the cursor is already open, you cannot open it again. Okay, and it is already opened and your cursor processed all the records. Even though it may open, you cannot process any record. Okay, that's the problem. So these two statements are very much important while you are working with cursors. Okay, we will run this and we can see. So name is John, 5th standard. Okay, Ram. So we can see all the records in my table. Okay, you got it or any doubts? Okay, I hope you guys are good. And I will,
Can you please tell me the statement fetch next?
your voice is very low. And
Can you please tell me the about fetch next?
yeah, fetch next. So what it will do is it will fetch the next available record in your cursor. Okay, so you may I will execute this query for, let's see. Okay, class, and then from student. Okay, this is my table. I have some 3 students in it. Okay, this same result will be stored into my cursor variable. Okay, in the form of records.
Mhm.
Okay, so fetch next means it starts from 1, so the next available record, so it will fetch this one. So you got the first record, and that executes only once, means only one record it fetches, and next time the cursor pointer points to this record. Okay, so if you don't mention this one, next time this fetch status will be 0, or means 1. It will not be 0, so means there is no available records, or you are not fetching any record. So the loop may go into infinite, or it will exit at that point. So you are fetching that next record, means this second record, into your variables, and you are processing until these 3 records are processed. It will fetch all the records into these variables, means it is processing record by record, one by one. Just like your for loop, you are saying from starting from 1 to 10, or your for each loop, you can see in for each loop you may have collection of objects, an array of objects. Okay, string str in some string collection. What it will do, it will fetch one by one, and once all the items are processed, it will come out of the loop, right? The same way you are mentioning here, fetch next. Got it?
Got it.
Okay. So you guys are clear? Okay. These are cursors, but uh, it, it is suggested that not to use cursors very often. They are really performance degrade. They degrade the performance of your application until and unless and they are very compulsory, then only you use cursors. Okay. Next is stored procedures. Okay, these are just like our methods in C sharp. Okay, so if you want to do certain repetitive tasks or operations over our database within the same application and database, then in that case the most useful method for this functioning is none other than stored procedures. So some repetitive tasks, like you want to insert a record into a table, so that insertion you may perform many times. That time better to use a single stored procedure. And you want to update some records, you use some stored procedure. You want to delete something, you use stored procedure. Okay, and you want to perform some complex operations. Okay, you want to validate all the students whether they are eligible, or okay, some other operations like insert their marks, and you have to calculate all their marks, and you have to calculate their average marks and everything. That time you can use stored procedures. Okay, so the advantages of stored procedures are SP, the short term we use SP, stored procedure. Okay, can return zero, single or multiple values. Okay, so it is just, it executes something and it will write something to your output window. So you cannot say this one returns, so it just shows the output. Okay, you cannot hold the values written from stored procedure. That is one thing. We can use transactions in stored procedures. Stored procedures have both input and output parameters. Okay, and then can be used with XML for class. So you can use XML classes. Okay, the output can be XML, and used in changing server configurations. If you want to change your server configurations, something, that time you can use stored procedures. Stored procedures allows you to DML statements as well as selects. So you can do data manipulation. Statements means you can create tables. You can in manipulation means create, drop, or alter your tables, something like that. And even DDL operations also, insert, update, other things. So the basic syntax for your procedure is create procedure and procedure name, and the parameter list, the input parameters, whatever you want to pass, and then as. So here we use everything as in SQL Server, means you are defining something and it should be as the following. Okay, that is the meaning of this. And begin, end, these two I told. Any block of statements, if you want to begin and end, you use the keywords begin, end. Okay, and then select, you can use your statements, whatever statements you want. Okay, so these are stored procedures, very useful, and the common practice is we use. And why these stored procedures are important means, stored procedures are, you write once and the compiled, and the compiled version will be there in your SQL server. Whereas if you write your queries, something like insert or select, they have to be parsed every time. They have to be compiled every time, and they have to compiled for any syntactical errors. If there are no errors, that time the your select statement will be saved and compiled into your native machine language. Then it will executed from your SQL server. Whereas stored procedures, they are already compiled and saved into your SQL server memory and they execute very fast. Okay, that's the advantage of stored procedures. Okay, so this is a simple syntax and we will see an example. Okay, so create procedure. Okay, manage students. Okay, this is my procedure and I'm going to pass as begin and end. Okay, my parameter list I'll mention. So any parameter or variables you have to start with at the rate, otherwise your system won't accept. Okay, so my table contains columns id that is not required, so we can have optional parameters in SQL server. Okay, id int, if you define, if you initiate this value with some value, this variable with some value, if you don't pass any value for this parameter, by default whatever you give here it will take that. Okay, id @name varchar 200. Okay, age, sorry, not varchar, this is int. Okay, address varchar 500, class varchar 200, and then @dob date type. Okay, these are my parameters. Just like your C# method, here also you can pass some values to your stored procedure. Those are called parameters. Okay, now begin. Here I can write many statements. Okay, so id is null. I am asking this to insert the passed values into my student table. Insert into student name, comma, age, comma, address, comma, class, comma, dob, and my values. id I don't need because it will automatically insert. Age, address, class, dob. Okay, these are already system defined keywords. You can use them, but better to use inside square brackets to differentiate. Okay, so this is my statement and I have else begin and update student set. Okay, so name equal to @name, so I will explain about this isNull function. address class okay. So my stored procedure I have written like this. So this stored procedure works for both insertion as well as update. Okay, so what it will do, so I'm passing few parameters, and if my id is null, so if I don't pass any value to this, by default the value will be null. Okay, if this is null means I have to insert a record to my database, my table student. Okay, with the remaining values I have passed. Okay, if the id is something means if id has some value, I have to update my database table with the values passed. Okay, where id equal to @id. So this is null is a function. Okay, what it will do is, so the very first I am passing two values. One is the parameter whichever I am receiving from the input, and the second is the same column name. Whatever column name is here, I am using same column name here. So what it will do, is null means the very first one in my function, if it is null, you replace this value with the name. Means whatever the second parameter value, whatever is there, you have to return that value. So the first value is null means you have to return second value. If the first value has something, you return this value itself. That's the meaning of is null. Okay, so why I am using is null, so if I want to update only age of a person, okay, that time I may not need to pass all the values, just id and age alone is enough. Okay, those two values are sufficient, need not to pass everything, right? That's why I am using is null, so that I can make these values also null. So by default it will take whatever I declare here. If I don't pass any value, it will take null. Okay, these are called as optional parameters. If you mention some value to these parameters in the here itself, it is called optional parameters. Optional means you can pass the values, or if you don't want, you don't need to pass the values. That's what it does mean. Okay, so now I will execute this procedure command successful. So where can I see these procedures? I can see it in my database. Inside that programmability is there. Inside that stored procedure one folder is there. Open that, you can see manage students. I have given manage students my procedure name that got created, and you can see it here. Okay, if you right click and if you want to modify something in this, you can modify by using alter command. Remaining all you have to keep same. Whatever modifications, if you want to add any more parameters, you can add it here, and if you want to remove some parameters, you can do whatever you want to do, you can do. But this statement is important. So one is create, one is alter. Okay, in SQL server, whatever you want to newly create into your database, you have to use create keyword, and then it can be a table, it can be a procedure, it can be a function, it can be a cursor. Okay, not cursor. Okay, it can be a table, it can be a procedure, it can be a function, it can be a trigger. Whatever it may be, you have to use create to create any objects, any database objects. You have to use create keyword and then the particular type of object. Okay, and then if you want to modify, you can use alter command. Okay, and if you want to remove that from your database, you can use drop. These three are very much important. Drop, it will completely remove the object from your database. Okay, this is alter statement. Here if you want to modify something, you can modify. Okay, so what I am doing is delete. So I want to use delete operation also here itself. Okay, if what I will do is I'll first check if delete is not equal to, if delete equal to 0, then only I can execute these statements inside. And else, sorry, it is not double equal to only one, else begin end. So the delete is 1 means I have to delete a record from this table. Student, delete from student where id equal to @id. Okay, so this is now update statement. So my stored procedure got updated. If you want to see what is there, now you can see if delete, that is there. Okay, so right click on this stored procedure name and you can see script stored procedure to create or alter to drop and recreate. So these are the options. Okay, now this is to create, means only create statement came here. Okay, so now my stored procedure is ready to test. So my stored procedure name is manage students. Okay, how I can execute stored procedures? You can execute by using exec command. Okay, you give your stored procedure name and then pass the parameters, parameter list you can mention. Okay, @name equal to, okay, Harry comma age equal to 21, and then what are the parameters? Address equal to Hyderabad, and then class equal to semester 1, date of birth. So I can pass all the parameters or few of them because everything is optional parameters. Okay, okay, these are my parameters list. If I want to execute, I can execute. You can see one row got affected. So whatever I passed the values here, this table you can see the result. Select star from student. You can see Hari name is there, semester 1, and his date of birth also there. So if you want to update any record here, okay, you can update by using same stored procedure. Instead of all these values, I want to update age. Okay, so I have to pass the id. Okay, id of the student. What is the id? I can take 2. Okay, and then what I want to update, so his address. Okay, so Delhi. Okay, these two I want to process. One row got affected. We will see the latest updated data. You can see here this got updated to Delhi. Okay, so this is update. If you wanted to delete, that also you can do. So you pass the ID. So did I mention where condition? No. Okay, where condition is there? Okay, ID equal to which one will delete 3. Okay, and then delete equal to 1. Okay, so this statement will execute. Okay, so one row got affected, and we will see there is no Vasu record. Okay, it got deleted. So the beauty of SQL Server, you can debug the statements just like in your Visual Studio. You can debug, but it works only for your local databases. Whichever local server you have installed on your machine, that one you can execute. So you have debug option here. Okay, so second record I am updating to Delhi, right? Now I will see Mumbai. Okay, so start debugging. That is only available for your local. Oh, sorry, I will stop it. It is executing all the things. Okay. Okay, now I will debug. So, just like in Visual Studio, you just press F11. It gets into this stored procedure. And now, you see, it came to update statement. And it gets execute. The values also you can see. Okay. So here you can see what are the values passed. The parameters. Okay, to and Mumbai. And it got executed. Now you can see the result. Okay, these are the stored procedures. Any doubts on this? Or you guys are clear? So these stored procedures are very much important. Okay, for example, I have given one, but there are many. So whenever you work with database, the best practice is to work to write stored procedures only. Not it is advised not to write dynamic queries, something like this. Okay, or insert statements, something like that. So directly don't write them and use them from your programs. Okay, always write a stored procedure, call that stored procedure by passing some parameters, get the output. That's it. So don't ever use your dynamic queries. Dynamic queries means just writing your insert statement without any stored procedures. Stored procedures are fast and they are distributed. Means if you create this stored procedure here, whoever has the access to this database, they can execute this, they can use this stored procedure. If you write your dynamic queries, that you can only use, nobody else. Okay, that's why best practice is to use stored procedures. Okay, now same way we have functions. So user defined functions are, these are, so the main difference between stored procedures and functions is stored procedures, they won't return value. Okay, they give some output, but they won't return value. Means the output of the value stored procedure you cannot hold into any variable in SQL Server. Okay, that's the meaning of procedures. So procedures versus functions means procedures can't return a value whereas functions can. That's the difference. Okay, so stored procedures output you can capture in the executing programs. Okay, from front end you can get the result, but in SQL Server itself you can't hold the result. But functions, they can return a value and you can hold that value into a particular variable. Okay, we have two types of functions. One is scalar functions and second is table valued functions. So scalar functions means uh, these functions will return only one value. They can return at max one value. Okay, only one value they can return. Whereas table valued functions, they can return a table of values. Means just like a table, so select star from student. So this can return that entire result, the table valued functions. Okay, this table valued functions, we have two variants in it. One is inline table valued functions and another is multi-statement table valued functions. Okay, so we will see with example. So this is programmability, stored procedures over. We have now functions here. Okay, scalar valued functions. You just right click on it, new scalar valued function. It will give you a basic structure how to create. Okay, all these are not required. Just remove, create again. So whatever object you are going to create into the system, add into the system, you have to use create statement. So create function, your function name can be anything. Okay, so just get what you can say, we have, okay, get my total leaves. Okay, this is the function. I am passing student ID. Okay, you declare a variable here, some variable total leaves applied. Okay, at the rate total leaves applied equal to count star from student where id equal to at the rate student id. So this is another type of assigning a value to your variable. Okay, this is also you can use this way also. Okay, return your variable. Okay, this is what here also have to use int and returns type of int. So the very first is create function and your function name, and then the parameter list, whatever parameters you want to pass it to this function, you can use that, and then returns what type it returns, the return type of the data, and as. Okay, begin, declare your variable which you are going to return, assign the value to that by executing some queries or functionality. So count star I am taking not from student, student leaves here where student id. Okay, so it gives me total student leaves, how many leaves he applied so far. Okay, so This one returns. Okay, so if I create means now it will create this for me, and if I expand this one, you can see get total leaves. Okay, get my total leaves. So you can execute the function the same way. Select star from. Okay, so you can give this. You just drag from here to your query window. It will drag that name. Okay, I am passing 2. So invalid object name. Okay, this is select. Okay, this one select my leaves. Okay, to execute functions you have to use select. Okay, you are selecting that function, and I passed the ID 2. For student 2, how many leaves are applied? So it returns 2. We will see with 1 also 2 leaves are there. Okay, so another variant in our functions is table valued functions. Okay, so what I will do, get students who does not have any leaves. Okay, so I need not to pass anything, that's fine, and return doing table. Okay, so the syntax for this is create function, function name, return table, and as return, no need of anything, you can directly return the result. I'm just taking the names from student std inner join, or just okay, where id not in, I'm selecting select student id from student leaves. Okay, distinct keyword I told you already, so it will return the distinct values, means it will omit all the duplicate values, and it returns only one value for the repeated values. Okay, this one we call it as subqueries. Okay, or inner queries. So you are writing inside brackets, so these are called inner queries. The result set that will hold all the values written from this inside those brackets, and the main query, outside query, it searches for that id which is not in the returned list. Okay, I am creating this function. The function got completed. Now we'll see the select. So it returns table, right? So we need to write select star from. So parameter were not supplied for the function. So I didn't declare any parameter here. Okay, I have to declare something like this. This is function, right? So you can see Hari doesn't have any leaves. Okay, we just created this student into our table. So this guy doesn't have any leaves. Okay, got it? Or any doubts? So
I have
yeah, Go ahead.
How do you define like mode
More.
for mode for the parameters?
So you want to create more parameters.
No, it's mode, MODE.
Mo.
I just know that the parameters have mode from mode type.
More.
Like mode. It's in mode or out mode.
Oh, input or output.
No. In mode or out mode in
Yeah,
the parameters.
yeah, that's what I'm telling. You have input parameters and output parameters. Okay, or in-out parameters. Three types of parameters are there. Okay,
Yes.
those are applicable for your stored procedures. Here,
Okay.
okay, what you can do is, okay, so this one I can do. I can declare as out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one got created. Insert means it will create some value for, so the recent some record inserted to this table. Okay,
Okay.
so the recently inserted value means the recently inserted record identity column, the value in the
Mm-hmm.
first id you can hold into this. By default all the parameters are in mode. In mode means
Yes.
you are inputting the values to the procedures.
Yes.
Okay, so out mode means you are expecting the value. Once you execute this stored procedure, you want to get a value will be assigned in the process of executing this procedure. Okay, that is called output parameters. Okay, and
Got it.
so output means
Mm-hmm.
in the process of executing, during execution of this procedure, if you want to hold any value,
Mm-hmm.
you want to assign any value to this parameter or any parameter, what you can do is you can use as output mode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can define as output so that I can assign the value here. So the best example is the recently. So you are just inserting a student record and you don't know what is the ID of that student record. ID means identity column. Okay,
Yes.
so
Okay.
you want to get that ID. Okay, you want to return that ID. I told you already stored procedures, they can't return any value.
Yes.
Yes, right? So that
Yes.
time what you can do is you can define your parameter as output parameter and you
Mm-hmm.
can assign a value inside your stored procedure to that parameter. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
parameter will hold the value of identity column. Once you execute that, you can get the value back. A value will be inside that parameter and you can access that value. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you have three types of parameters. One is in parameters, that means in
Mm-hmm.
mode. In mode
Yes.
means by default all the parameters are in mode, means only you can enter the values and those are used in your procedure. And another is out, out or output. So output means what it means, you can assign the values. So in the process of executing that procedure, if you want to get back any value, you can use this type of parameters. And one more type is in-out. It works for both. So you can pass a value using this parameter. Same time you can get back some value from this parameter. Okay, got it?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Got it.
So any more doubts? Okay. Next we have error handling in SQL Server. So if you get any errors, how you will uh, how you can process or how you can handle those errors. So just like in C Sharp, we have error handling in SQL Server also. So the basic syntax is same like in C Sharp only, whereas we use the braces to process the block of statements. Here begin try, the syntax is begin try. Inside that you write your statements which may raise some error due to some operations, and end try, and begin catch. You are handling that error in this block. Okay, begin catch and then end catch. That's it. So we have very simple example here. Same like in C sharp, they are trying to divide some value by 0. So it will anyway throw an error. That error can be executed in, that can be caught in your catch block, and that can be executed. Okay, so this example you can see, I will copy the same example. Okay, so I'm creating a stored procedure. So whenever there is an error occurred, all these all these functions will return the recent raised error details, the number, severity, state, and error procedure. Okay, and then which line and what is the message. Okay, so I created this procedure that is there already. Now I'm going to execute some error code, that is begin try, select 0. Okay, select 1 by 0 operation I am performing 1 by 0, and try begin catch and execute your SP. Okay, you can see error number this one, severity 16, state 1, procedure null, and the error message is divided by 0 error encountered. Okay, by this way you can handle any kind of errors. Got it? Or any doubts?
Okay, good.
Okay, fine. So after that we have transactions. Transactions are very much important in SQL Server. So when you see the data integrity, okay, so data integrity means you have to validate the operations, the data inside your system, that is validate or not, as we discussed in the first class, the ACID properties. So it has to execute all the statements or none. That's the very first principle we discussed. Okay, so how these are possible means by using of transactions in SQL Server. So we have two types of transactions. One is implicit, another is explicit. Implicit means these are system defined transactions. Whenever you do some create, alter, drop, truncate, okay, these are DDL commands and some DML commands. So that time the transactions, already system defined transactions, they will execute. Any error is there, that will be taken care. So the primary key you can see, and the check conditions. So all these are implicit transactions. If anything fails, the record whatever so far whatever inserted, it will roll back and it will bring the system back into the previous state. And explicit transactions mean the transactions you define yourself based on your conditions. Okay, the syntax is begin tran. You can use small word tran or transaction and the name of the transaction and the name Okay, transaction variable name and with mark. So this is the basic syntax. We can see one example using this. Okay, so here only I will do one thing. What I will do is I will try to insert some value, okay, into student name, age, address, class, DOB. These are the fields. Yeah. So values I'm going to give Sai, age 22, address Chennai, DOB. Okay, this is the one statement. I'm going to execute one more statement. Insert into student leaves. Okay, if my this name got inserted, my ID will be 5. Okay, so I'm going to student ID. And what is the next field? Start date, end date, approved, applied on. These are the fields, right? Okay, so this one student ID 5. There is no 5 in my database. Okay, 5. And then date. I have to give something 15, 12, 20. End date 2015, 12, 22. Approved as applied on 2015, 12, 15. Okay, these are my records. Okay, I am inserting this, and I can create transaction here. Begin tran. I can give some name. Okay, transaction name std. Okay, and try. So we have commit statement. Commit std means these operations are kept on hold till all got executed. So if anything fails, some error occurs, it will directly comes here, and your transaction, these operations will be rolled back. Okay, so commit std. I'm executing the statement. Roll back your std statement. Okay, these are my this is my transaction. Begin transaction, end transaction. Okay, I think end is enough. Okay, I'll try to do this. Incorrect, sorry, values. Maybe this one not required. We'll see only one transaction, right? Here is std. Okay, everything. There are more columns in it. Where Address Chennai, class DOB missing. DOB is there, class missing. You can see there is some error. Though these statements got executed, there is no data in my both the tables. You can see select star from student. So I have inserted this record, but there is no data for this. You can debug this and you can see. Okay. So select star from, there is Hari, then begin transaction. That insert happened, but there is no data. This insert also happened, but there's some error raised and everything. Insert statement conflicted with foreign key. Okay, roll back. So there is no data. Even though we have the statement, it is not inserting the data. Okay, got it? These are transactions which are used to support your ACID properties of isolation and data integrity. Any doubts? Okay, I hope you guys are good. So the assignment I am going to give you guys is, so far we discussed about the looping statements, the random functions, the system inbuilt functions, variables, stored procedures, loops, cursors, okay, functions, transactions and error handling. Only we are left with two more concepts. One is CTE and another is triggers. Okay, these two are the topics we left with SQL Server. Tomorrow I will cover with that. So meanwhile, the assignment I am going to give you guys is, okay, so we have three tables. You guys have to insert some random values into that. Same like in my first C# assignment, I want you guys to insert some 10,000 records into student table, okay, with some random values. Okay, the second one is insert same way some 500 student leave records. Okay, same way insert 1000 student marks records. Okay, and then joins also I told you guys. So here some 1000 student marks records. So test name is there. So I want the marks for different tests conducted in the school. Okay, that is assignment. And then fourth is get student marks, get each student marks test wise. Okay, get each student leaves. Okay, and then leaves covered, that one covered. Okay, this much is enough. Okay, this assignment is for this weekend. Okay, you can start it today and you have to complete it by Monday class. Okay, any doubts on this? Or you guys are good? Okay, I hope you guys are good. So we'll meet tomorrow and we'll complete SQL Server concepts so that next week we will discuss about the connecting of SQL Server as well as C Sharp. So these two we learned so far independently, means C Sharp as a separate language and SQL Server as a separate language. But on Monday onwards, we will start using, so we start interacting from C Sharp to SQL Server. How we have to pass, how we can pass the values to C Sharp, and how we can get the values from SQL Server. Okay, how we can process, how we can do. Okay, so the same tables we will use to get the values back. Okay, so please try to complete this assignment so that it will be easy for upcoming classes. Okay, thank you guys, have a nice day, see you tomorrow.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay. In the, uh, we we have error in yesterday's class. Like,
I will explain. So yesterday I given choice char 10. Okay, and set rate choice equal to a. So yesterday I was writing something like this, right?
mm,
Choice when it is a, then print you have selected apple, and when it's b, then print you have selected banana, else print you have selected nothing. Okay, so here
mm-hmm,
the mistake yesterday, what I have done is this case statement. Okay, this is an inline conditional operator. Okay, so you can't directly execute the output operations here. The print operation, it you can't mention it here. The case statement, it returns a value and you can hold it into some variable, and that variable you can use for your operations. So this print, we should not use it here. Okay, so I am removing, here also I am removing. Now you have to use select, that's it. You just close it. Okay, I need to use end. Okay, now you can see you have selected apple. Okay, this is inline, so it will return some value. It is just like a function, it will return some value. Unlike your if condition, it won't execute many statements, it will return some value, that's it. B banana, if you guess, you have selected nothing. Okay, fine. Or any doubts?
what do you mean by inline function?
Inline means, so you can assign this value to again some other variable also. Uh, Result. So if condition means what you can do, if condition. So in if condition,
Mm,
maybe it works with only select, not even result also. If you use select, you have to use that in select, that's it. So this result I didn't declare. So you have to use that with select statement, select command, then only it works. Okay,
mm-hmm,
so it works with select only. If condition, that is independent, there is no dependency, you can write in your program statements. But whereas this case statement you can use only in select operations. Is that clear?
No.
So this case statement, this is
Mm-hmm.
used to process a group of on already existing elements.
Okay.
Okay. If
Okay.
condition, if is in C sharp or any other language, that is a conditional statement. But this case
Yes.
is used based on some value, already existing value. Okay. So with select command only, you can use this case statement. Without select, you can't use this case command. Okay, case statement. Sorry. Still not clear?
I just asked you like what you mean by inline function.
Inline means this entire is a single line.
Yes.
Okay. If condition
Okay.
means if condition you start it here. Okay. You start it here. It begins, ends. Okay. This is not a single line. You can write number of statements inside it.
Yes.
But here this is a single line. So if you put
So for,
semicolon, you can use in SQL Server also. If you close it here, this statement itself is a wrong. That is a
okay.
continuous statement. You can't break that statement somewhere. But in if you can break it, you can break this statement into multiple things. You can write multiple statements inside this.
Yes.
Yeah. And your if
Yes.
statement, if you execute this as a whole, it won't return any value. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even in C sharp also, you can't write some condition. If you are writing console.writeLine, inside that method, can you use if statement? You can't write. The same way, the select means it will give you the output result.
Okay.
Whereas if is to process, to manage your execution control. Okay.
Okay.
But case statement, it returns some value to you. That is just like some function based on a condition that executes, that returns some value. Whereas if condition, that controls your execution. Okay, which line has
Okay.
to execute, that controls. But which value it has to return, case statement decides.
Okay.
That's why the value you have to hold in somehow, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
something is returning a value means that entirely into a single, you can call it as a single function or inline. So we have
Okay.
inline conditional statement in C sharp also you can use with question mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one also we call it as inline conditional operator. The same way this is also inline conditional. Inline condition we use to return a value. Clear?
Yeah. So from select to end, it's a single statement, right?
Sorry?
So in the case from select to end, it's a single statement, right?
Yeah, single statement. If so, here also you can use this semicolon to end your statement line. If you end it
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in this, okay, anywhere, if you put after, not before end, it will give some error.
Okay.
You can see this incorrect syntax. But if you put inside this one, select A, if you put here, it won't give any issue for your if condition.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so is that fine, guys?
Fine.
Okay, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. Bye bye. Have a nice day.